Hey guys, Joe here, the guy who always helps Garrus calibrate the Normandy's weapons, and UFC 276 had just a lot of wild moments from top to bottom on the card, and we got a ton to talk about, so I want to be brief on all things as best I can, and so enough talk. Let's get to the fights. So main event, we had Adesanya versus Cannonier for the middleweight championship, and this fight just kind of sucked. Izzy just kind of coasted for 5 rounds, using his superior movement and distance control, while Cannonier just seemed frozen in place. I felt like if Cannonier had a chance at winning this fight, like he needed to just set the pace of the fight with the threat of a double leg or a level change at all, and then just blast low kicks to kind of reduce the movement while checking kicks of his own. Is what Jan did really well. And he just didn't seem to do any of that. He seemed like he was almost too weary of the counter shots coming back from Izzy. And his only real offense was clinching against the cage and landing knees to the inner thigh, which hurt. They suck, but it's not going to really do you much. And honestly, oh well. Izzy either just smokes dudes or he puts on these really boring and frankly meh performances nowadays. And I know he's a champ and he has all these title defenses and whatnot, all this stuff like that. Fighting the top of the division, sure. But, like, his performances just leave me wanting more. And that's something I don't like seeing in a champion. It's kind of frustrating. Especially, when there's a guy, like, in my opinion, in his last fight, I thought he lost his last fight, So it kind of hurts his allure to me. Co-main event, Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway 3. And wow, what a way to end this trilogy. For those that don't know, a brief refresher is this is their third time fighting. The first fight, Volkanovski took a clear decision win, and the UFC, of course, had DC tell everybody on the prelims, like hyping up this fight, saying that it was controversial. It wasn't. It was a clear Volkanovski win. No questions at all. Whereas in the second fight, though, it's really close. Scorecards are all over the place. And, I don't feel like it's a robbery either way. I think it's just a great fight regardless. I scored it for Volk, though, so maybe I feel like I'm in the minority there. This fight, though, no, it's not. No questions at all. 5 rounds Volkanovski, even though he's like on his back foot, he's kind of circling the cage. He is just the faster dude, and he's landing the harder shots. His speed was the huge difference maker here, as he seemed like he was 2 times faster than Max at times, and he was landing great boxing combinations, as well as like good slip right hands that were just like massive cut, just in like one of the worst spots for Max over the left eye, and then he had another one underneath the right eye, and the doctor didn't stop it. We were kind of expecting it when we were watching it live, but no stoppage. And of course the great low kicks, which were the big difference maker strikes in the first 2 fights. No question. At this point, Volkanovski moves up to my number 2 featherweight of all time, because I think it's really hard to top Aldo. I think it's just really hard to kind of top that. Volkanovski can do it, whereas like Max, I think sadly is going to be at 3, which is so insane to say that like Max Holloway, got knocked. Is a top 3, but he's not 2 or 1. That's so insane to me to think. But Volkanovski's proven it, and I'm even going to go a step further and say that Volkanovski is my pick for the number 1 pound for pound guy on the planet. I think it's him. It's just me. Then we have Sean Strickland versus Alex Beheda. I was on the preview show for this, and on the preview show, I brought up how Beheda's best strike was his left hook, and which is great against someone who loves to throw out the jabs a ton. It's a great counter to the jab. There's a lot of counters to a jab, but a good left hook is a very good one. And Strickland just throws out a ton of jabs. So on the feet, this is a horrible matchup for Strickland. But in Beheda's first fight, in the first UFC debut, I want to stress, he looked like he had a non-existent ground game. So, and Strickland's a good wrestler. In my mind, I go, well, as long as Strickland isn't stupid, he can just take him down. It's an easy win, right? Strickland's kind of stupid, I guess. I don't know. You know what? Credit to where credit's due. He said he was going to do this, and sure. But he got blasted very early in round 1 and was just put out quick by that same left hook. Wow. This Beheda does have that wow power. And the UFC's happy as well because they get to have their dream fight. And it's because they've been really pushing Beheda to fight Izzy next for the middleweight title, which is, it's kind of funny to me. I was thinking about this. How do you build up a contender at middleweight? You don't have him fight Robert Whittaker because Robert Whittaker is just going to beat that guy. Like, I had a hard time kind of buying into Cannonier a little bit. Like, I thought he had a chance because everybody has a chance. And I said, here's how you're going to do it. This is X, Y, and Z. These are what I thought Cannonier needed to do. But then again, if he didn't fight Whittaker, I would have been like, oh, he's got a great chance probably. Whittaker just kills hype trains. So neither one of these guys fought Whittaker, so that was a good way to build up the middleweight division. They're learning a little bit when it comes to that. But I guess we're going to get Beheda and Izzy next. Then the last big fight I want to really get into, Robbie Lawler, Bryan Barberena. And what a year for Bryan Barberena, by the way. This is his second fight of the year candidate, as his first fight with the firstborn son of violence himself, Matt Brown, was fantastic. And this one was, I thought, just as good, if not better. I think I like this one more. Well, I like this one more except for who won. Sorry, Brian. But, so, honestly, it's the legend, the ruthless Robbie Lawler. So Lawler's putting on the pressure early with his footwork, and he's using his big power to land these big bombs on Barberena, who has an insane chin. And so Barberena starts taking some momentum back with some just volume of strikes. At one point, he's literally just kind of doing this in his face, and it actually confused Lawler, who's Philly shelling up, and he just like, well, okay, hold on, I'm not getting hit. What's going on? I'm getting hit with pity pat, and then one would sneak in. Just like the volume from Barberena. And Barberena started throwing some pretty cool elbows. He threw like 3 en bas elbows, like those upward it was so awesome. And they all landed. It was such a cool round. Close first round, though, but a good one. Very good one. Second round, though, and the volume starts taking its toll. Barberena just breaks guys. And sadly, Robbie Lawler got stung, and he just started wilting under the pressure. And Barberena gets a standing TKO win over the legend, Robbie Lawler, ruthless Robbie Lawler. Crazy. He out ruthless him. He out Robbie Lawlered him in a sense. And it is a big signature win for him. Crazy, crazy fight. And I hate to be the guy, but Robbie, I think it's time to hang him up. I love you, man, but I think it's time. And now for the rest of the card, because there is a ton on this card, and I want to talk about all of it in crazy detail, but I just can't. You guys know me. I ramble. Pedro Munhoz and Sean O'Malley opened up the card, and I thought the first round was a very clear Pedro Munhoz round, as he was just peppering the leg and not engaging on O'Malley, and O'Malley starting to drop the hands like, oh, see, he's not doing anything. That's because O'Malley was frustrated that Pedro wasn't running at him with his chin up in the air. O'Malley hasn't had the best competition. We all know that. Of the one guy before this that he fought that's very legit, Chito Vera, he stopped him. And I don't care if it's a freak injury. He got kicked in the leg. He got hurt from the kick in the leg. It wasn't like a lightning bolt came in and struck him. He went down and he got finished with vicious ground and pound. That's a loss. There's no question. That's a loss. God didn't strike him down. A fault in the octagon didn't split open and he fell in. It happened. It happened in the fight, from the fight. And here I was kind of going, okay, so maybe Pedro Munhoz is stopping this hype chain. Well, in the second round, he just kind of abandoned that, started trying to box with him, and it really wasn't working out so well. And then he took but he was, still doing well, but it wasn't like he wasn't winning clearly. Where it was like, it was kind of back and forth. I thought he should have just stuck back to the, the game plan of throwing low kicks. But whatever. I'm not a professional fighter. I'm just backseat quarterback in here. But Sean O'Malley ended up poking him in the eyes, incidentally, pretty bad. Hand, palm out, the long arms. He tried to stiff arm a guy, and it got him in the eye. And honestly, they called it a no contest, right? And I just want to say this: if you get poked in the eye, it sucks. If you're complaining about this and you've never been poked in the eyes in a situation like this, I don't want to hear it. Because I have. Take it from experience. It sucks. I got poked in the eyes in grappling by accident all the time. It sucks. And it doesn't take much to damage a retina. So I think we should personally lay off of him. because we can't see through his eyes to see how his vision is. We don't know. We don't know. And then Jalen Turner, Brad Riddell. I talked about Jalen Turner on the fight preview, and I said, hey, this is a big test for him, and he didn't just win. He passed this test with flying colors. Big straight right down the pipe, locked in a guillotine, super tight. Oh, what's next for this kid? He's 6'3" at 155 pounds. Who makes guys like this? What is going on? It's so cool. And he's good. He isn't just big and lanky. He's actually good. So I think these guys got a pretty high ceiling at lightweight. I'm very excited to see what happens next. And then Dricus Du Plessis, I'm bringing him up because he knocked out Roberto Soldic, who I think is the best welterweight outside of the UFC, right now at least. He ran at Brad Tavares, flailing arm punches with his chin up in the air, and came away with a decision win. It's kind of crazy to say that whenever I go, Roberto Soldic, best welterweight outside of the UFC, could probably jump in the UFC and be top 5. But, Dricus Du Plessis caught him. And then finally, I had to talk about this. We had 2 retirements on the card tonight. We had Jessica Ai, who lost the decision to Macy Barber, and she called it a career. She said something along the lines of, and I don't have the exact quote, but it was like, I spent all my 20s and most of my 30s fighting. I want to see what the rest of the world's like. You know what? All credit to her. Good for her, calling it a career. She wasn't the most fun. She wasn't the most technical. She kind of relied on her looks, I feel like. I feel like that, like, her looks were like a lot of her marketable appeal for a lot of fighters, because she was main eventing a ton of fight night cards for a while, and I never understood why. But she had a great win. Well, they took it away, but a great debut against Sarah Kaufman, and it was fantastic. And she has fought a who's who of talent. Never forget, the UFC was looking to fast track her into a Ronda Rousey matchup, like, after her debut, but then a failed drug test for weed in the Sarah Kaufman fight took that away. It just kind of is what it is. It kind of sucks. But then we had the big one, sadly, Donald Cowboy Cerrone calling it quits. So he fought Jim Miller in a rematch from their fight from years back, where Donald Cerrone KO'd Jim Miller. And both dudes, the winner of their fight last night, became the winner the leader in most wins in UFC history, which is insane. So second round, they both throw kicks. Cerrone lands a high kick, but Miller lands a body kick, and it knocks Cerrone down a little bit just because of off balance. And Miller just jumps on that neck, snatches it up. It's a night, And then Cerrone taps, and after the fight, took his hat off, took his gloves off, put them both in the hat, called it a career, And I want to say, let's remember Cerrone for his incredible years as a top fighter. Not his most recent years, where he himself has admitted his heart wasn't in it. And I'm going to sound really corny here, because I saw the line I wrote, and it's super corny. But Cowboy never won a title. But he won the hearts of millions of fans everywhere. He's one of the most beloved fighters ever. Props to both of y'all. Thank you to Jessica Ai and Donald Cowboy Cerrone for your careers, and I wish both of you the best of luck. And that's it for me, though. And be sure to catch me after the Rafael Fiziev versus Rafael Fiziev versus Rafael Dos Anjos fight, where we're going to talk about how the loser will be forced to change their first name. Also, last week was a pay-per-view week, so I did put out a retro review on the main channel for UFC 189. It's fantastic, so please go check it out if you haven't. And anyways, I'm Joe with the INC. Thank you for watching.